today I want to talk about how to win in any market. Where people get in trouble is when they don't want things to change. They get very comfortable in what they're doing, they get settled in, it's working, and then the game changes. This is the formula for anybody that is afraid of a changing market, or maybe in your business, some things have gotten a little bit tougher. If you're in the solar business right now, a lot of things changed. Well, it's time to listen to this episode and put it into practice. Real estate, mortgages, all these different industries. This is when you can make that big leap. This is when you can steal market share and become the person in your market. And by the way, the good news is when you get through those bad markets, all the other people are gone. The competition's gone. I'm so grateful for the downturns because it gets everybody's cousin or uncle or neighbor out of the business, and they focus on who really is the best. And they come to you and they become clients for life, no matter what your business is. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Jimmy Rex Show. And today on the podcast, this is an episode of Real Men, Real Conversations. And by the way, if you're not following our Facebook page, it's becoming quite an active community. It's just several hundred men, going to be soon several thousand men that just take different topics, things that are going on, and we discuss them and we talk about them. And it's just a place where you can go, and if you have something curious that you want to talk about or something you want to, bring to a group of other men for an opinion, you put it on that page and we discuss. So that's the Real Men, Real Conversations Facebook page. Also, if you're not following us on Instagram, we are the they. We would love to have a follow there as well. But anyways, I want to get to this episode, and today I want to talk about how to win in any market. And one of the funnest things I get to do is I coach several hundred men now, and I have one-on-one conversations all day, usually 2 to 3 hours per day. I'm doing one-on-one conversations with different men. And so I have a pretty good pulse on what people are worried about, what people are thinking about, what people are concerned about. And with the election coming up and interest rates doing what they're doing and AI doing what they're doing, there's just a lot of uncertainty right now. And it's an interesting market that we're in as far as the economy goes, because usually when you have a down economy, you have to deal with the fact that there's people aren't buying things, or nobody's really been able, the economy stalls because interest rates are too high. But what's happening right now is that there's still a lot of action in the markets. There's still a lot of money available and different things like that. And so the Fed has tried to raise interest rates in hopes to slow the economy and stop inflation and everything else, but it hasn't completely worked yet the way they thought. And so we continue to have this market where nobody really knows what's going on. And the equity markets seem to be progressing. The real estate market still is going up in value every single month and every single year. And so a lot of people are just nervous. They don't know what's going on. They are hoping that the economy for them gets stronger, but yet in general, we still have some pretty good signs of what's going on in the economy. And so it just creates a lot of uncertainty. And I deal with a lot of real estate people. That was my industry, obviously, for 20 years, 19 years ago, I started my real estate career. And so in real estate, we just have a lot less sales happening. And that can cause a lot of stress for a lot of real estate people because you're paid based on how many deals you're doing and a percentage of those deals and everything else. And so I want to speak, though, about how to win in any market, just how to succeed no matter what's going on. Because the truth is, and we've heard this saying before, but you make the most money when the blood is running in the streets. And what people mean by that is, and what my mentor would always say is, he said, there's opportunity in every economy. There's opportunity in every market. And so I saw this in real estate, right? When the market's going crazy and it's going well, you can buy anything. You almost can't screw it up. I liked that market as an agent because I can sell people any house and they're going to make money. They're going to be happy about it, especially when rates were down. They lock in these low rates. They're happy with their home for the rest of their lives, or as long as they want to live there. In the other markets, though, it's a little bit harder sometimes to find the opportunity. So when I got in real estate in 2005, and for 2-3 years, you didn't even have to know what you were doing, and you could sell quite a bit of homes. It was very similar to what we saw up till about 2 years ago for about a 4 or 5 year run. So I sold a lot of houses, was making some good money. I saw the market go up and progress. And then all of a sudden, 2007 hit, right? August of 2007, we know the economy completely tanked for the real estate market. That's when they froze credit, and it became really hard, essentially, to get a house. I saw a lot of even doctors or very successful people were struggling to qualify for a home, even with great income and a ton of money down. Basically became a completely different market. And for about 6 months, you had this little holding pattern. This is what happens a lot of time when the economy shifts. And nobody knew what to do. Nobody knew what was going to happen. So a lot of people just kind of wait, and nothing's really happening. We saw this when, about a year ago with the real estate market. Again, is like people are kind of like, wait, is our rates going to go down or are they going to go up? And then once that kind of stabilizes and people realize, okay, this is the new norm, they start buying again. They start doing things again. But in that down economy from really about August 2007 till the end of 2011, it got really difficult for the average real estate agent to survive. Opened our doors, and every single day we were watching agents pick up their stuff and leave. They couldn't make any deals. They couldn't make any money. I remember I had people on my team. I had, I think, 9 members on my team at the time. And we very quickly got down to 3. And one of those 3, he hadn't sold a house in 4 months. He was down to he was like, hey, if I don't sell anything in the next 2 weeks, I think I'm going to get a different job. And I remember during that time too, there were so many people that were, you'd go to a restaurant and your server had a real estate license. You'd get an Uber and your Uber had a real estate. I don't think there was Uber then, but whatever, you get all these different places where you would go and they all had real estate licenses. They just weren't selling real estate. That agent on my team thankfully sold a house and stayed in the industry, but it got that difficult. I mean, great agents were going out of business every single day. And people often ask me about that and they say, how bad was it? And it was as bad as you hear. I remember so right now with, what people are considering a stale market, we have about a 5 to 5.5 months supply of homes on the market, which means on average, it takes about 5 months to sell your house if you list it right now, if you list it just at the normal price. Well, back then we had a 22-month supply of homes on the market. It was insane. I literally was holding 40 to 50 listings at a time in hopes to getting one sold every single week. That was my goal, was to sell one of the 50 homes I had listed. And about 60% of the time, I sold a house that week. And so I sold 30 homes that year. I remember I was the number 1 agent in our office and I was getting my ass handed to me. But I did survive it. And eventually, I started figuring out a couple different things. Remember, there's opportunity in every market. And it became the catalyst for everything that I eventually did for the next decade. And so what I want to talk about is a couple of the things that I did to survive that market, what you can do to survive any market, whatever industry you're in. One thing that I think where people get in trouble is when they don't want things to change. They get very comfortable in what they're doing. They get settled in. It's working. And then the game changes, right? We're seeing this a lot right now in the influencer community. A lot of people that were doing things before that worked, you just made content and you posted it and you got attention and then you could make sales off that. And it worked. And now it just got very saturated. Every single person on the internet now, that's what they like to show. And so everybody's making reels, everybody's an expert, everybody's teaching something, which awesome. But a lot of the content's not that good, but it's really hard to sift through it. And so a lot of people have just turned off in general to that kind of marketing, those kind of markets, right? And so what worked before isn't necessarily working as well today. You see these big conferences and people sell tickets to and everything like that. And the sales of those are down about 50% just because there's so much of it. I remember when I first started We Are the They, it wasn't until about my 3rd event, I brought somebody in to do some breath work. And I had met this woman at a Tony Robbins event. This woman is Samantha Skelly, and she's world-class breathwork expert. She'd been on the Ben Greenfield podcast, and I just was like, I got to bring this lady in. She's the one that can do breathwork. I remember I brought her in, and she did breathwork with my group, and it was life-changing. We had some amazing experiences. But if you fast forward 6 months after that or a year after that, it was like every 3rd girl on Instagram was now doing breath work. And so that just very quickly got saturated. So a lot of these women got very frustrated because what they could competition and get somebody for a couple $100 if I want to, right? And obviously you find the person that, is going to hold that space the best. But the point of it is there's a lot of these different things get saturated very quickly. And when something's working, a lot of people are going to copy it. And it's funny because I see this even with, random men's groups popping up and everything else. And the nice thing is you want to, number one, this is going to be the first thing I teach you to how to survive in any market, is you have to be the asset. You have to be the person. You have to be the thing that has the value or that creates the value for the people that are buying you. And I've done this with my real estate career. I did this with my coaching program because, people can start whatever coaching group they want, but they can't replicate me. They can't replicate what I bring to the table. And that's a skill set of how to help people connect and commune and all those different things that I've created over 25 years of experience in throwing literally hundreds of events and parties in my life. And so the first thing to do to survive any market is you have to become the asset. So you have to get very real with yourself. And you got to ask yourself this question, like, what makes me valuable? What makes me special? As a real estate agent, when the market started to collapse, there was a lot of agents that weren't very special, a lot of part-time agents. Like, you're working 20 hours a week and you're going up against an agent like me that's working 60, 70 hours a week, that's highly skilled, highly trained, highly motivated. And you're going to try to tell somebody that their best chance of selling a home is with you working 20 hours a week part-time? No way in hell. And so people can read that when I sat down with somebody, I literally why I'm the best. I just know that I know how to get shit done. And if you hire me, I'm going to get your house sold. I'm eventually going to find a way to get that house sold, or I'm your best chance to get it sold. And they could feel it when I shared it with them. They knew that I was being serious, at least that I believed it. Same thing I did when I was a Mormon missionary. I was the best at getting in houses. I could knock any door and get any house almost any time I wanted. I was in Monterrey, Mexico. And funny, the mission president, if we had missionaries that said they couldn't get in the door, he would send them out with me for a day and we'd teach 15, 20 discussions, whatever it was, 11 discussions. Like, we'd be teaching all day long. And I had one principle. I said, I'm going to show up and I'm going to have so much certainty about my own message that even if they don't want to listen, a part of them is going to go, well, I don't know what the hell this guy's talking about. Half the time I didn't even speak good Spanish. He couldn't understand me. But they were like, whatever he wants to teach us, he sure as hell believes it. And I want to listen just because I know how convicted he is in it. And that was the same thing that I believed with my real estate career. I knew I was their best chance. Whether their home sold or not, I couldn't promise them, but I knew I was their best chance. I'd done the work. I was putting in the effort. I was honest about what they needed to do, about what the price needed to be. And I knew it. I knew what the price needed to be to get them max dollar for that home. And that's why I was the best agent. Same thing with my coaching program. We just sold out our 5th leadership group a couple weeks ago. And, you have about 100 leads every time I open the group, and I got to close basically 50 of them and get them signed in. And it's a different thing from when somebody says, okay, I want in, and they apply, but then there's some trepidation. And a lot of times when you're about to make that big change, people get a lot of resistance, and some people fall and some don't. But my job is to get the 50 people that are committed to sign up. And what's cool about this program, I've had over 200 people through the group now, is I can sell them with 100% conviction. Dude, this is going to change your life. I know it's going to change your life because I've seen it happen for 200 other men. And then I list 15 different ways that this is going to change their life, right? And so because I have that conviction, they feel confident. It's the certainty that I speak with. So you got to ask yourself something right now in the industry you're in and the job you're in with this economy. We don't know what's going to happen. So, it could be a great economy. It could end up becoming a really bad economy. We really don't know. We're kind of in a holding pattern. But no matter what happens, you will win when the economy changes, for better or worse, if you have the most certainty. Have you guys ever heard in sales before, the person with the most certainty wins, right? And so if you're selling a product you don't believe in, or if you don't honestly think that you're the best at doing it, or if you don't think it's a good price, if you don't think it's a good deal, you're not going to be able to sell it with the conviction that you need. And so you have to get very honest and real about what you're doing. I used to sell solar. I did in 2014. I did it for about 6 months. And I got this opportunity with Vivint Solar, and I thought it was going to be life-changing. And so I went and did this for like 6 months. And it didn't take me very long. In fact, I'll tell this story because my very first day, I go to Santa Rosa, California. The reason why they sent me to Santa Rosa, California, I remember my buddy Dan was the one that got me hired. He was the VP of sales for Vivint Solar at the time, or whatever, became Sunrun. And he tells me, he says, hey man, we have this area that no one's ever been able to get to work. And if you can go there and just cut your teeth, we're going to give you the Vegas market, which is going to be our best market. And we're going to have 50 guys that want to be there immediately. It's going to be the easiest thing you've ever done. I said, done. So I go to Santa Rosa. My first day there, there was only 3 people in that office, 3 other sales guys. And I go to the guy's house the first day I get there. And I'm just like, what's up, man? I'm Jimmy, whatever, the new blah, blah, blah. And I noticed he didn't have solar on his house. And I asked him, I said, dude, how come you haven't put this on your house? And to me, it was such a no-brainer. If you're going to do this, you should do your own house. He goes, oh, no, we don't have a very good deal on solar. I'd never put this on my house. And I immediately just went, oh my gosh. Like, this guy doesn't even believe in the product. He knows it's not the best deal on the market for people trying to get solar right now. They did this thing called a PPM, and long story short, it barely saved people money. Sometimes it didn't save them money at all, and there was all these problems with it and all these. You had to agree to have it on your house for 30 years, and if you sold your house, you had to sell the contract. There was just a bunch of complications. But it was like that moment changed everything in my mind. I went from so excited to immediately deflated because I knew somebody that knew more than me about the area and what we were doing didn't believe in the very product we were selling. It was interesting because I got into it for about 2-3 months and I was doing good. I was in the top 10 sales in the company every single week. But then as I got to learn more about it, I was convinced of what he was convinced of, is we really didn't have the best product on the market. So I had to quit. I could not tell people they should do this. I could not get people to do this if I knew I didn't have the best product. So I quit. And, and that was the end of my time doing that, essentially. And I don't know what they sell now or how it works now, but at the time, it wasn't the right product for that market. So that is the first thing, is you have to know that you're the best. So how can you get that kind of conviction? How do you know that you're the absolute best choice these people have? Well, look at your business. Are you the best? If you're a SaaS company, are you the best option? If there's a company that's doing it better, why is theirs better? What do you need to do to improve yours? Is it more money invested in R&D? Is it better sales? Is it better price? Is it just a better product? One thing I appreciate about Vivint all these years and Sunrun is they've always been obsessed with of making their product better and better and better, right? And you see this, like, this innovation has to keep happening. Every company that stays relevant, because again, guys, the game is going to keep changing. The game is always going to be moving. And if you don't innovate and you don't create and you don't change, you're going to get left behind. This was another thing I saw with realtors all the time, right? I remember when I first started in real estate, they told me that text messaging was unprofessional. And you can laugh about that now. But I remember going to a Tom Ferry coming up in the future, you guys. You've got to become obsessed with making videos and getting videos on YouTube. And eventually, he would talk about it with Instagram and everything else. And when he first said it, I'm like, who wants to just watch a bunch of videos on their phone? This is insane. And now the average person in Gen Y or whatever the hell they're called, the younger ones in Gen Z, is like they're watching videos on their phone for 6 to 8 hours a day. This is all people do. So the people that got good at the video, if I'd have listened to him and gone all in on what he told me clear back then, I'd be one of the biggest people on the internet, I'm sure of it, because it was so far ahead of the game. That's what Gary Vee did, right? Like, he became the best because he was so far ahead of the game of having video that nobody could ever catch up to him. He was doing wine videos for years where he literally had nobody watching. It's pretty impressive, to be honest. But so that's number one, is you've got to believe in yourself that you're the best person for them, and you've got to believe in the product that you're selling. You've got to know that it's a good value. When I sold meat door to door, it was funny because, it wasn't the greatest product in the world, but for the price that we sold it, I knew that I could sell it. If I sold the case of meat, it was 58 cuts of steak. If I sold it anywhere under $150 a case, it was a good deal for the people. It was cheaper than the grocery store. It was cheaper than Costco. Quality was as good as the grocery store, for sure. If I sold it for over $150, I knew if they did the math, they would later regret the purchase because they'd realize they overpaid. So my average, what I did is I'd sell 3 cases for $400. I did that 3 or 4 times a day, made a couple grand. That was my whole thing. And so I knew if I sold them more cases at a time, the value was going to be there and I could make those big sales. And so that's what I shot for all day. So that's the first principle, again, in any kind of market. The second thing is you have to sit down and have an honest conversation with the people in your life that are going to suffer if you have to be a little bit more engaged in your work. And what I mean by this, I was talking to a guy yesterday that I coach, and really he needs to spend the next 90 days. This is the way I teach it to people. Spend 90 days going all in, balls to the wall, hell bent on just making your business or your financial life change. Like Tony Robbins talks about this all the time. Balance in life is a joke, but you need to be strategically unbalanced in certain things at certain times. And if you're broke or you don't have any money, it's a really good time to be strategically imbalanced at work. The problem comes in is like you scare the crap out of your kids or your wife because they're like, is this our new life? Is my husband going to be spending, I'm not going to see him during the work week. Or we're barely seeing each other all the time. He's obsessed with work. Even when he's home, he's working, all these things. And so I said, look, what you have to do is you have to go all in, but you want to put a finite end to when you're going to be done with this. And so I say, look, do it in 90-day sprints. The first one, tell your spouse, say, listen, this is why I want to do this. This is why we need to do this. Just get very real about your situation. What's going on? If the market turned and the sales that used to be there aren't there anymore, then it might be time to go all in for 90 days. And I say 90 days because you put a limit to it so that they know it's going to end. And just get very honest about it. You tell your spouse, you say, look, at the end of this 90 days, we're going to do an evaluation. We're going to see if it's working for you and for me. If it's not, I commit to let you be the person to decide if we do a second 90 days or not. In the meanwhile, we need to get very clear on what you need to feel safe, seen, and understood, because we won't be able to spend as much time together. So we need to make sure that the time we do spend is much more quality time and that you get my presence. So what do you need to feel safe? What do you need to feel that you're appreciated? All those things. And sit down and get super clear on that. And let them know, like, look, my time is going to be hard. But then you have to honor the time that you're taking to put extra into the mass effort, right? It does no good if you're not working. I mean, most people are better off just working a more intentional 40 hours a week than trying to work 60 or 70. If you just put that focus and instead of dicking around for half the hours that you're at work, you get very clear on what is your money generating activities. And this is the other thing to succeed in any market. You have to know what makes you money and what doesn't. Where in my business can I delegate and get back time? What can somebody do as well as I do that if I give them the job, it won't be done worse and it frees up more time for me? And then you got to know per hour how much you get paid. I knew exactly how much money I got paid when I was on the phones. So I became obsessed with being on the phones. I got paid the same amount when I was doing lead follow-up or if I was on appointments. So my goal was to spend 90% of my time doing those three activities. And I was obsessed with it. I knew if I made my 3 hours of calls every day, for me, that was the lead gen. That was my most important thing. Then I'd have an hour of lead follow-up. I'd have lunch appointments, and I'd have buyers to show homes to all afternoon and listing appointments to go on all week. And so that's what I spent 90% of my time doing. What a lot of people do is they want to feel busy. There's a big difference between being busy and being efficient and being effective. And so I always would try to delegate every single thing I could that was going to be quote unquote busy work. Like as a real estate agent, it was pretty obvious, like, you know, preparing comps or packets or posting on social media or going to closings. Like I never went to closings, and, you know, my clients, I would just review, I'd call them up. I'd spend 5 minutes on the phone reviewing their closing documents, make sure everything was correct. And then I'd say, cool, if you have any questions, call me. Right. On top of that, I would never go to an inspection. I said, look, we're going to sit there for 2 hours and I'm not going to be able to help anything anyway. We get a full report from the inspector afterwards, and I'll call you and we'd walk through it. It'd take me 5-10 minutes. I would do these things with efficiency so that I could keep my focus. But what a lot of agents would do is they didn't want to be on the phones for 2 hours. So they loved having a home inspection because it meant they wouldn't have to be on the phones. Or like they'll throw an open house and just sit there for 4 hours and have 2 families come through. I was talking to an agent in Arizona recently, and she was doing an open house every day for 30 days straight. I talked to her a couple days in a row about how many people came through. It was like 4, 2, like on a good day, I think 2 groups of people came through. I'm like, well, you've got to be kidding me. Like you sit there for 4 to 6 hours and you get like 4, you talk to 4 people. I'm like, what do you do with the rest of the time? And they just kind of dingle around or whatever. It's like, I threw, I think, 1 or 2 open houses my whole career. I don't even count them as open houses. They were like parties. I basically got on, threw a barbecue, had cookies and food and the whole thing. That's how I would do an open house. So I had people the whole time. But if I didn't, I had a list of my for sale by owners, and I just sit there and call FSBOs the entire time I was at the open house. But you have to get radically clear and honest. You need to turn that to 37 of them need to be effective. You know, where can I save time? Where can I save energy? So you're not stealing it from your family, but that your career can then take that next step. These are a couple of the main things as the economy turns. And then the next thing is you've got to focus on what's working, right? Talking about your problems just exasperates them. Like it's so important to focus on where you're going. Have big whys. I remember when I was selling and man, the market was dog shit and nothing was happening and I couldn't sell any houses, but I was so crystal clear. I had a quote on the side of my wall and all it said was, Jimmy, show up today. It said, show up today for your future self. You never know who's going to need you. And that quote motivated me every single day because I knew I was going to have a big life. I knew I could help people. I knew I could make some magic happen in this world. I didn't want to be a loser. I didn't want to just pass my time here on earth. I wanted to make a difference. At the time, I didn't know what that meant. But now I have so many opportunities over the last 7-8 years. I've had so many moments between going undercover and now working with these men with We Are the They and watching couples and families. I get the benefit of seeing how my life affects other people. And it's the gift of my life because I remember back to those times and I get emotional when I talk about it because it was so damn hard to stay motivated. At the time, all I was doing was paying off debt. I was paying off, you're paying bills. And there was no immediate award. So it became really hard to get on the phones. But I just kept telling myself, Jimmy, show up today for your future self. You never know who's going to need you. And so when I have these moments now and these men come up to me or I see them have breakthroughs and it changes their life and it, sometimes saves them from a situation they've been in, it means so much more to me because everyone around me was giving up and everybody around me was taking easy ways out. I was able to walk away from real estate, turn it over to my real estate team, basically my entire operation 2.5 years ago, so that I could focus 100% on helping men connect and form friendship and go deep with these relationships in their life and help them with their marriages and their kids' relationships and everything else. I never would have been able to do any of this if I hadn't stayed on those phones and pounded them in that time. And so that's the last thing I'm going to say is just like really have a reason why, like know why now is the time to push through it and be more efficient. I'm not telling you need to work 60, 70 hours. You just need to be very clear about what makes you money, what brings in sales, what helps your business. What's the one thing? There's a book by Gary Keller called One Thing. And what is that one thing in your business that you need to do every single day to make sure your business is healthy? That's where you want to focus your time. 85% of your time should be spent, especially if you're a leader of the group or it's your sales job or anything else, in money generating activities. And just getting crystal clear on that will help you get through any bad market. And by the way, the good news is when you get through those bad markets, all the other people are gone. The competition's gone. This is your time to literally rack up so much of the business that's out there, the share of business that you can have, the type of business that you can have, the type of clients you can have. I'm so grateful for the downturns because it gets everybody's cousin or uncle or neighbor out of the business and they focus on who really is the best. And they come to you and they become clients for life, no matter what your business is. So there's opportunity in every market. Get rich when there's blood in the streets. Like, be smart. You wait for these moments. If the market turns, it should be a celebration. It's going to be how you approach it every single day. Your attitude towards it will determine what happens during the next downturn, whenever that is. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys today. Listen back to this episode. This is the formula for anybody that is afraid of a changing market, or maybe in your business, some things have gotten a little bit tougher. If you're in the solar business right now, a lot of things changed. Well, it's time to listen to this episode and put it into practice. Real estate, mortgages, all these different industries. This is when you can make that big leap. This is when you can steal market share and become the person in your market, whatever market you're in. We'll see you next week.